Have you ever come to a place where you feel like you're at wit's end corner? You come to a place of almost total desperation, not knowing what's going to happen, and you feel under everything? Well, Psalm 107 has a good word for us today on this Tuesday, 24th of March. As this week, even yesterday, we heard our governor close down the schools in the state of Virginia for the rest of the year, and parents have their children, jobs are closing down, people are unemployed, and it appears that even our Congress is in a pretty big mess. I heard a congressman say yesterday, he said, our country was founded by geniuses and now it's being run by a bunch of idiots. Now, that's what the congressman himself said. So we ourselves are sitting here feeling helpless, hopeless, and maybe we're getting desperate and we've come to wit's end corner. Well, in Psalm 107, I'm sure this chapter was actually written about the history or the life of Israel, who first they wandered in the wilderness, they found no city to dwell in, and then they cried to the Lord because they were hungry and thirsty, and God fed them, He took care of them. That was the first stage of their life. And we find actually the storyline of the Bible in Psalm 107 because it's simply people drift away from God, they turn their backs on God, and next thing you know, they find themselves in despair, and they cry to the Lord and He helps them. And that's possibly where many of us are at today in this country. The second stage Israel was in, and we find ourselves in, is we rebel against the Word of God. We don't want to hear from God. And now God lets us come to the shadow of death. It just is around us as a shadow. But then the third level that Israel found themselves in, we find ourselves in, is we actually find ourselves enslaved to sin and to bondage in our addictions. And then at that point it says they come to the gates of death, the gates of death. Now, they cried to the Lord and He helped them. This last section that we're going to look at in Psalm 107, because 4 times they cried to the Lord in their distress and He saved them from all their troubles. This fourth section is they go to the sea to do business in great waters. Now that's interesting because all these other times are like desperation, but I think this is speaking of a time of plenty, a time of great economic expansion, and they're going to the sea. It's international, it's global, things are going good. Sound familiar? The best they've ever gone for us and maybe our lives and our economy. We become very materialistic. It's all about things and possessions and going and being bigger and better. And they go to the sea and in the ships and they do business in great waters. They've seen the works of God. They've watched God provide in the past and answer their prayers. And so things are going great. But now God has to get our attention again. And that's what happens in this chapter. A storm comes. It wipes everything out. It takes them down to the depths of the sea. It reaches them to the heights of heaven. They get on an emotional roller coaster. Have you felt like you're on that emotional roller coaster? One moment you feel God, the next moment you feel like you don't know where He is. Is He there? Does He care? Well, that's what happens in this chapter, and they stagger and they walk like a drunken man. They can't even figure anything out, and they're totally confused. And maybe, again, that's where we are today. They come to wit's end corner. And when we get there, that's the place of desperation. And I'm telling you, God delights to hear us in our desperation because they cried to the Lord and the Lord answered them and He brought them to their desired haven. He saved them from their distress 4 times. So today, I believe that's where we could be. And I want to encourage you because our desired haven is really what our soul really searches for and needs more than anything else. And that's a relationship with the living God. Do you have a relationship with the living God? Do you know Him personally? Do you know Him intimately? That's what He wants. He'll be there for you no matter where you're at. If you'll come to Him today, through His Son, Jesus Christ, is the only way to come. He's the way, the truth, and the life. There's no way to the Father except through Him. Christ came to this world. He lived a perfect, sinless life. He died on the cross for my sin, for your sin. And that's why He came, to redeem us, to bring us back, to restore us. In our desperation, we cry, oh God, these sins are too great for me. And He says, I want to heal you. I sent my word, Jesus, the living word, and He brings healing to your empty soul, your desperate soul today. Call on His name. What a difference it will make if you trust Him. Well, that's my prayer on this 24th day, Tuesday, March, and I believe that God's going to do some awesome things in our lives today if we but trust Him.